And you know that thousands of people died from the radiation poisoning at Chernobyl. And so the precaution that our so-called leaders will have to take is to shut off the electricity by shutting down the power plants. And once they do that, you get no water, no electricity. If it's winter, you freeze to death. And if it's summer in Arizona, you will cook. We have to have air conditioning here. We have to have water, and without it, you die. If you can't flush your toilet, you die from the smell, the bacteria that grows. Anybody with a swimming pool thinks they got it made. Their neighbors will be dipping into that pool, and it'll be gone in 3 days. All the water will be gone in 3 days. People need drinking water. They'll drink your swimming pool water until it runs out. Each person uses 100 gallons a day for washing clothes, washing dishes, showering, flushing the toilet, and drinking water. And landscaping. I don't think that people will care much about landscaping if they're fighting for their lives. And so the use might drop to 50 gallons per day because half of the water we use is landscaping. That's why it makes no sense at all to put fluoride in the water. Why does your landscaping need good teeth? And where is it written, where are the studies that prove that fluoride is effective in preventing cavities? We know it's toxic. We know it's poison. So why put fluoride on your lawn? Why shower in fluoride? How does that help your teeth? Why flush fluoride down the toilet? They're spending $3.5 million, and 99% of it is wasted if fluoride is effective. So why would anybody do something so stupid? That's all I'm going to say about fluoride here. But 50% of the water we use is for landscaping, and if you cut that down, you still need 50 gallons a day to wash clothes and wash dishes, and to drink, and to shower, and flush the toilet. When Planet X was approaching, it appeared as a star. But on its journey past Earth and toward the sun, there were some sightings of a second sun. The second sun was never Planet X. I don't care who says it, it's not true. What's happening is a massive body is bending the light rays, and we're seeing bended light, and it appears as two suns. We know from Einstein that light bends. We know from the aliens that light bends. They don't use light years as a measure of distance because they said, first of all, light does not travel at the same speed all the time. It varies. And second of all, it does not travel in straight lines. It bends. So there was an eclipse of the sun, and stars in the background seemed to jump as the light was bent around the sun during the eclipse. The sun was blocked by the moon, and the stars in the background were in a constant position, and then they suddenly jumped, and that meant that the light was being bent, and it is no longer bent. And when it straightens out, you see the light jump from one position to another. That's the double sun effect. We already know it. The double sun effect is evidence that there's a Planet X. Am I sure there's a Planet X? No, I'm not. Planet X will never appear to move toward the sun. It comes up from below the ecliptic plane. That's just about 90 degrees from the sun at that point. It passes through the ecliptic plane where it does achieve a 90-degree angle. Its path is 90 degrees from the line from the sun to Planet X. It's a T shape. And it goes up above the ecliptic plane, and it goes back out where it came from, perhaps the Kuiper Belt. I think it's reasonable that it goes out as far as the Kuiper Belt, but I don't know much about this other sun out there, this dead star that pulls it. If there is a dwarf star out there, one with a mass equivalent to our sun, it's not a dwarf star. Apparently, Planet X is a dwarf star. It emits light. It's a dwarf star. But the binary sun that's dark and dim and similar in mass to our own sun is out there somewhere, I don't know where, but it's out there. I'm not sure it's out there because I haven't seen it. I haven't seen proof of it. But the scientists are saying that it's out there, at least the Zeta Reticuli scientists. Each one of them has an IQ of 275 on average. They make Einstein look like he's been drinking fluoridated water and the other toxic chemicals, cadmium, arsenic, lead, and mercury. And he's really dumbed down at an IQ of 180. They are nearly 100 points above that, and some of them probably have IQs of 400. Do they have mentally retarded with an IQ of only 200? That's smarter than Einstein. And they say that there is a star out there, a dead star. It's a binary star system we have. Our sun is one, and that star is the second. Planet X travels between the two. And it has to go around each and come back. And the speed has to be greatest when it's whipping around the sun and when it's whipping around this other star out there. I doubt that anybody could live on Planet X because it's surrounded by debris. There wouldn't be any light. It goes out into a very, very cold part of the solar system. The temperatures out in the Kuiper Belt have to be somewhere around 400 degrees below zero. How do you feel when you're in that kind of weather? If there's any heat on the planet at all, it would have to come from within. It would have to be plates been reviewed recently. I wonder what the Zetas say directly, because when any message passes through another person, it changes a little bit. Have you ever played that game where all the kids pass a message by whispering it to each other? It starts out as one message, and by the time it gets to the last kid, the complete circle, the message has changed dramatically. Reminds me of the kid who was saying a prayer, and the prayer was, "Give us this day our daily bread." And the kid said, "Give us this day our jelly bread." Is that funny? So the Zetas tell Nancy, "Give us this day our daily bread," and Nancy writes down, "Give us this day our jelly bread." It changed a little bit. I would like to know, what is the mass of Planet X? Planet X is approximately 4 times the size of Earth, 12 times the mass, and a huge magnet. Being a huge magnet is not good. Not good. It could pull the metal, the iron, out of the Atlantic Rift and take it with it. It's supposedly passing closer to Earth than ever before. The Zetas say it will not do that. It will merely grab onto the Atlantic Rift and hold it in position. The Earth will stop rotating for a while, and then it will resume. But the side that faces the sun will have some days of light, and the other side, the dark side, is going to have some days of darkness. Then it will change its rotation, and the sun will rise in the west for a while. I think it's 3 days. And all of this is going to be pretty amazing if you survive the passing of Planet X. And since it's a big magnet, this is not good. The insider who reported watching it on the Hubble Space Telescope says, you better have a lead helmet, 4 inches thick or something like that, because it's going to make you insane, because every cell in our body is a magnet. Every element on the periodic table is a magnet. The reason that fluoride is so poisonous is because it is the most electronegative element on the periodic table, and people cannot grasp that concept that we are all magnetic. Everything is magnetic. The sun is electrical, which is related to magnetism. Gravity, magnetism, light, it's all electromagnetic. We don't need something huge and magnetic passing close to the Earth. This is terrible, as you will soon see if it's real. So as it travels through our inner solar system, it can have dramatic effects on the planet it passes by. That's what the author wrote. And I'm adding, if it passes nearer to the Earth than ever, look out. We're all in trouble. We're going to proceed to the next section now, and it's very important. I want to ask you one question before we hear what the author wrote. Planet X is coming in, and at some point it's no longer coming in, it's going back out. And I would like to know what you think that point is. We know that it comes in under the ecliptic plane, and we know that it goes out over the ecliptic plane of the planets. What is the midpoint of those two paths? It's the pole shift. When Planet X reaches the ecliptic plane, it's no longer coming in. It's now going out. And the author writes, the prophecy in its simplest form, I forgot to read the heading, interaction between planets. The prophecy in its simplest form states, as Planet X leaves our solar system and grabs the Earth's south pole with its north pole and drags us along with it. Remember, with magnets, opposites attract. And so the south pole of the Earth is going to get a yank from the north pole of Planet X. It pulls the Earth in, but it moves a little bit, and Earth does not follow. It would be a catastrophe if the Earth became one of the objects, the traveling companions of Planet X. I'm sure this has happened. If there were people on the planet, it killed all of them. In that case, it would be more deadly than our own government. When Planet X grabs the south pole of the Earth with its north pole and drags it along for a short distance and releases it, this results in a 180-degree shift for the core. Now, if you've wondered what causes a reversal of the poles, the North Pole becomes the South Pole, this is telling you this is how it happens. A large magnetic object comes by and causes the core to reverse as it passes. It just spins around, and now it's facing the opposite direction. That is the core. The crust makes a 90-degree shift because it is dragged along with the core. And it doesn't drag very well. There's a little bit of looseness. And so we only get a 90-degree shift. And that's why planet Earth has had a North Pole in many different places. And that's why we have the Great Lakes. Because when the North Pole was over Wisconsin, just north of Wisconsin, there was probably 2 miles of snow, as there is currently in Antarctica. Antarctica was a tropical climate, and so was Siberia. Both today are very cold. India is warm today, but the Zetas say that India will be one of the coldest places on the planet. Brazil is nice and warm right now. With a pole shift off the coast of Brazil, you will see one of the poles. When you look at the Earth as a globe, you see that India does not line up with Brazil as north and south. And so this shifting of the crust is not going to be perfect. It's not going to all move together. There are going to be some plates crushing, some land masses sinking, and some land masses rising up out of the sea. Who owns that land? You can be sure that the fascists will try to claim it. Like they have grabbed so much of the western United States land. They own about 50% of the West. And I think those territories belong to the states, not the federal government. The federal government has emerged as a monster, grabbing everything they can, grabbing all your money through their crooked banking system, and grabbing land as if it was theirs. Who appointed them to be the land grabbers? Certainly not the people. So if we have land that rises up, I think it should be Liber land. In other words, libertarian land. It should belong to everyone, with no one putting a finger up your ass. We don't like the finger up the ass. It's time to cut out that bullshit. If you want to put your finger up your own ass, go ahead, but leave us alone when we're trying to get on a fucking plane. So the core shifts 180 degrees, and the North Pole becomes the South Pole, and the South Pole becomes the North Pole. They have moved because the crust moves 90 degrees. And after that, we have normal rotation returning, but with a changed axis of rotation and a different geography. So we're going to see the western part of Australia go under the waves. We're going to see India go under the waves. And there are going to be a whole lot of refugees starving and desperately in need of water, and they're not going to get it. It will be catastrophic, and I hope that Planet X is not real or put off for a few centuries to give us a break. But when we get a break, we push that off on someone else, and that's not right. Now she has given us a brief description of the exit of Planet X and the effects, interactions between planets. She is now switching back to the approach. Remember, the pole shift is the midway point. It's approaching up until the midpoint, which is Planet X reaching the ecliptic plane, and the pole shift takes place. She told us what will happen, and now she's going to tell us, as it approaches Earth, complex interactions occur between the two planets. The first effect is a wobble in the rotation of the Earth. This is caused in part by a highly magnetized deposit of iron located between fault boundaries in the Atlantic Ocean, the Atlantic Rift. If we have a magnetized deposit of iron that's in motion, we should be able to generate electricity from it, and that would be free energy. I'm sure that some people figured that out and came up with inventions, but the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office denies patents for free energy devices because it threatens big oil. And that means that our government, including the Patent Office, has been taken over. If the Patent Office has been taken over, what do you think about the Supreme Court, Congress, the puppet president? They've all been taken over. And so you don't get free energy. Free energy would make everyone rich. We have a magnetized deposit of iron located in the Atlantic Ocean, and it's called the Atlantic Rift. It's between fault boundaries. So it's where plates come together. If you had two magnets in space and one of them came close to the other, if the north poles were both on top, you would see the bigger magnet bullying the little magnet, and there would be a wobble, and that's what we're seeing. People have photographed the sunset, and then the sun comes back up again because of the wobble, and they film it going down for a second time in the same day. That's pretty interesting. We never had that before. The wobble increases until Planet X is eventually close enough to grip Earth by the Atlantic Rift and slow down rotation to a complete stop. So one of the things you're looking for before the pole shift is the wobble, and then the slowing down of the rotation of the Earth. Now, once the Earth has stopped rotating, this condition lasts for almost 6 days, 5.9 days, leaving one side of the Earth in darkness and the other in perpetual sunlight for 5.9 days. Rotation resumes when Planet X leaves and pulls us around. While it takes the whole day for Earth to slow to a stop, it only takes an hour to resume rotation. This is the hour of the shift. How are you going to know that the sun has stopped rotating? You look up in the sky and the sun isn't moving. It stays in the same place for a while, and that's when all hell breaks loose. Because when the Earth stops rotating, what happens to the water?